أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And welcome to another one of your G2 classes, everybody. I hope you are all doing well today, inshallah. And as always, we are going to start off our class with an opening prayer. And for that, I will request a student to come to the mic. Could I please get student G2700 unmute themselves, please? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm good, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah for asking. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, good.
Alhamdulillah. Very, very good to know. So, would you like to start off with ta'awudh and tasmiyah? And if I could ask you to recite the following prayer for me, please.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
Well done, mashallah, mashallah. That was very, very nicely recited. Just a quick reminder, because this is a ba mushaddad, remember a ba with a shadda, we will put pressure on this letter, okay? So we're going to say taqabbal. Can you try saying that for me?
تقبل.
Well done, mashallah. Very, very nicely recited. And could you also read out the English translation for us?
Our Lord, accept from us, for you are all hearing, all knowing.
Well done. And that's Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 128. Jazakumullah, student G2700, for coming to the mic. MashaAllah, that was a beautiful recitation. Take care. Allah Hafiz for now.
Allah Hafiz.
Perfect. Okay, so just before we proceed on to our class, let's remind ourselves of our class etiquettes. So make sure you have all joined the class, having done your wudu or your ablution. Make sure you're wearing clean clothes and that your head is also covered. And it's also very important to sit in a quiet place to eliminate as much background noise as possible, so that it is easier for us to hear you when you are called to the mic. And most importantly, can everybody please make sure that they have signed in using the correct ID, as only correct IDs will be called to the mic. So use your time right now to rename yourself if you've happened to sign in with the incorrect ID. Okay? Just a quick announcement to be made. I believe you're already aware of this, but next week there will be half term. Okay, and so we will there won't be any G2 classes being held, all right? So there will be next week where there will be no G2 classes. However, our classes will then restart from the 20th of February 2023, and I believe that is a Monday. Okay, now we also have our G2 course leader in the lesson today, and I believe she has an announcement to make for you guys. So if I could please request our G2 leader to come to the mic. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. If you just bear with me, I'll share my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome, everybody. Jazakumullah for sharing some time with me. If I could just check with my colleague that my screen is being shared properly.
Yeah, it is.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so lovely students, you've been coming to our classes every day and reciting, and then there's been homework given to you every day to practice what you've recited in class. And then you've practiced again on Thursdays, and then on Fridays you come and you recite to the breakout room teachers. And it's all about practice, 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 practice. Because the more Qur'an you read, the more fluent you'll become, and the easier it is to apply the rules, the easier it is to recognize the rules. Now, it's very easy to follow that routine during term time when you've got classes, because every day you're going to be coming into class, so you're in that routine, you've done your wudu, you've come to the computer, you've sat down, and your teacher's going to take you through. So you follow along and the homework is set. Now, just as it's easy to follow a routine during term time, it's also really, really easy to fall out of the routine during holidays. And we've got half term coming up next week, and it will become very, very easy for you to suddenly just not do anything to do with the Holy Quran at all. Because it's half term, you might sleep in, you may go and visit family, you may go out for days out, lots of things that you'll be doing. And they're all good to do. Everything that you're going to do in half term will, I'm sure, be good to do. But reading the Holy Quran is an everyday activity for the whole of your life. And you should actually be doing it every single day. So in order to help you, we've devised a schedule so that you've got some homework to do over the holidays as well. And if I could just remind my colleague that there are some people in the waiting room. Okay, so this is a schedule, and this will also be shared with you. It's on the drive, and my colleague will then share the link to the drive in the chat. During the holidays, it would be a really good idea for you to follow this schedule and practice the reading as it's listed out. So we've got the chapter that we've been reciting during the term, with all the verses that we've done so far. We want you to practice over them so that you can become even more fluent. Now you'll also see some hifz surahs, and those ones, normally we would cover them in class, but because Ramzan is coming, we've had to shorten our whole course, and it wasn't possible to fit this into the teaching classes. So we've made lots of really useful material for you to use at home, and I'm just going to go through those with you, okay? Oops-a-daisy. Okay, so the Hifz unit that we have on G2, we've got 3 chapters for you to memorize, and they are Surah Al-Kawthar, Surah Al-Asr, and Surah Al-Ikhlas. And when you memorize them, you are going to be expected to be able to not just recite them from memory, because I suspect that most of you already know these ones from memory anyway, but you are expected to be able to recite them with the correct rules applied. Okay, so those are 2 separate things. People can memorize, but they may not necessarily be reading with all the correct rules. Now, some slides I'm going to show you have been made to help you to memorize, and to memorize with the correct rules. It's not difficult to memorize, especially these short chapters. It's not difficult at all, but it's also not difficult to forget either. So once you've memorized them, I want you to try and keep those chapters in your memory by regularly reciting them in your daily salat. Okay, so 3 chapters, Surah Al-Asr. There's some facts on the screen for you there. Again, all of this material is available on the drive. And the 2 others are Surah Al-Kawthar and Surah Al-Ikhlas. And it just tells you there that, for example, with Surah Al-Kawthar, the order of revelation, it was the 15th chapter to be revealed in, to the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. It has 1 ruku and it has 4 verses. And although it was the 15th chapter to be revealed, it actually sits at chapter number 108 within the Holy Quran. So although it's one of the first ones to be revealed, it actually sits towards the end of the Quran if you're reading from Surah Al-Fatiha all the way to An-Nas. And there are 30 parts in the Holy Quran altogether, and this one sits in part 30. Okay, so some facts for you to know. Now, some tips to help you memorize. When you're memorizing anything from the Holy Quran, a technique that you can use is to read a verse or a portion of it if it's a long verse. Read it about 20 times. Now, it seems like a lot, but actually it's quite easy to do it 20 times quite quickly. Once you've done that, repeat that verse or that portion without looking. Okay, so try and repeat it. Try and picture the writing in your mind. Imagine that you've got your eyes closed, but you can see what you're reciting. And that tends to help you. Once you've done that, ask someone to listen to you. And if everybody's busy or there's nobody else around at that time, you can use a mobile phone to record yourself, and then you can listen back to see if you did actually memorize properly. Once you've actually memorized that verse, okay, then you move on to the next verse, okay, and you use the same method. Yeah, read the verse or the portion 20 times without looking, whilst looking, then repeat without looking, try to picture the writing in your mind, and then ask someone to listen to you, okay? Once you've done 2 verses, it's really important not to just move on. Now read both verses together whilst looking. And that will help you when you come to the end of a verse to move on to the next one. And that will help you understand the order that you're going to be reciting in. And then once you've done both of them together whilst looking, try reciting both of them from memory. So it's all about repetition, 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 repetition. And that's the theme for Quran reading. The more you read, the clearer it is in your mind. If you've memorized both of those verses and you've managed to read them in the correct order, then move on to the next verse. Now, these chapters we've asked you to memorize are not very long at all anyway, so it doesn't take that long. But the same principle applies even if you're memorizing longer chapters. Once you've done that, read everything you've memorized at least 3 times whilst looking before you go to bed. And that's quite important, because what happens is that your eyes will see the letters and the harakat, and will see exactly where on the page everything is sitting, where the verse ends are, what is going on that page. Your eyes will see, and that will create a picture in your mind. And if it's the last thing you've done just before you go to bed, it will actually sink into your memory, inshallah. And then in the morning, if you can, okay, next week is half term anyway, but if you were doing this on a school night, try and read it again in the morning before you do anything else. And then every day in your salat, recite that particular chapter that you've memorized, because then you have to focus, you have to concentrate, and it's a really good way of keeping the memorization in your memory. Okay, it's not difficult to memorize, but it's also not difficult to forget. So that's why it's important to keep reciting it every day in your salat. Okay, so that is the end of that particular presentation, and I just want to show you now. Okay, bear with me, move this across here. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, bear with me for a second. Okay, so if I could just check with my colleague that the PDF is now being shared properly.
Yes, it is.
Okay, apologies for that. Okay, so these 3 chapters, we've made some slides for you to help you be able to recite them with the correct rules. As I say, we can't fit them into our teaching days because our term is actually quite short. So just some of the things that I have already explained to you. Okay, always start with Dawood, the Tasmiyah, and there is a prayer to help you learn. Okay, so there's a prayer that we haven't been using in our daily classes, but it's another one that we put in there for you. Okay, for Surah Al-Asr, if I go through, you will see that on each page we have certain rules. So for example, here, the lam sakin as you will already know, joins to the most recent mutaharik letter, and you ignore the letters in between. But we're pointing it out to you so that when you do recite, you actually do join those letters, and you make sure that you pronounce both letters. We're reminding you here about how to pause at the end of the verse, how this kasra becomes a sukoon, and then noon mushaddad, and so on. So the rules that you need to apply have been shown on these slides. Okay, if I move on to this one here, let me just go on. This one is Surah Ikhlas. Okay, so the same thing, but you'll see here, the rules as applying to this particular chapter. Okay, and similarly for Surah Al-Kawthar, same things. And then we've got the details for Surah Al-Kawthar as well. Okay, so where you have to do ghunna, where you have to elongate, where there's a yaleen, and so on. Now, something I just want to point out, if I go back upwards, okay, on these slides, you'll see at the bottom corner here, if I can get my highlighter, okay, here, okay, there's a link here. Now, if you click on this link, what will happen is, if I share now my screen again, what will happen is that you will then go to this particular area of our website, the Al-Islam website, our Jamaat website. And when you click, it takes you directly to Surah Al-Kawthar. And if you go to settings, you can go down. So maybe your parents can be paying a little bit more attention on this particular aspect, yeah? You could come down to the Tilawat, and you can hear, you can see that there's a few reciters. I tend to suggest Qari Ashik for you to use, okay? And then what you will find is that if you wanted to, let me just share my computer sound, okay? If you wanted to see whether you've pronounced or recited properly, you can go to the verse and you can listen to Qari Ashik reciting. Okay, so if I just play it. Okay, so there is a link in that particular PDF that will take you to this website, and then you can, and it takes you directly to that particular chapter, and that link is on each of those 3 chapters that we've made. Okay, so that will help you to recite properly, and it will also help you to memorize as well, because you can listen as well as repeat. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about the homework. I hope that you do the homework over the holidays. The more Quran you do, the better it is, and to keep within a routine is always very good. There are 5 salat during the day. If you did a little bit of Quran reading after every single salat, you would read quite a bit in the course of a day. So just some tips and techniques for you. And on that note, I will now hand back to my main teacher, Jazakumullah, and I wish you a very good half term once you've finished your class today. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah, Jazakumullah. Okay, everybody, I'm now going to share my screen again. There we go. All right, everybody, so that was a very good way of telling you guys or making you aware of some great tips that you could make great use of when you are trying to practice and memorize portions of the Holy Quran. So please, everybody, make sure that you are doing the homework over the half term as well, okay? Now, as you are aware, today is a Friday, and normally in our Friday lessons, we have the breakout room session in place. However, before we do open the breakout rooms, I did want to make a quick announcement about our G2 Jalsa Yawmi Muslimaut, Radiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu. So I believe you're already aware of this because there was an announcement made on this yesterday as well, but I will quickly make another reminder for you all. Now, on Friday, the 24th of February, at 6 p.m., we are going to be holding our Jalsa Yawm Muslimat, Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu. And for that, we are requesting students to submit in their recordings to the following email address here, ukquranclass@gmail.com. And the deadline to do so is Thursday, 16th of February. Okay, so you've got around 6 days left. If you haven't done so already, we would request you all to start submitting in your recordings. Now, the recordings are gonna basically be a recording of what you'd like to take part in. So if you want to take part in tilawat, in nazm, in speech, so on and so forth, that's what you're going to be submitting your recordings in for. Okay. Please make sure that you state the activity. So you say what part you are sending your recording in for. Is it tilawat? Is it nazm? Make sure to state your student ID. So for example, G2 and then your ID next to it. And also make sure to state the course ID as well, which is G2, so that we know what group you are part of. Okay. So if you could state all of this when you are renaming the recordings file name. So once you have recorded, go back onto the audio file, rename it to the activity, so tilawat, your student ID, so G2 XYZ, and state G2 as well if possible. And we request you to do the same when you are sending in the email. Make sure that in the subject box you are stating exactly the same things as stated above over here. Now, there are different categories that you can send your recording in for. We've got the tilawat, we've got the translation, we've got hadith, prophecy, nazm, and English speech as well. If you wish to take part in tilawat, we request you to record these following portions of Surah Al-Jumu'ah, verses 1 to 5. Okay. And if you wish to take part in the translation, here we've got the translation written down for you over here. And again, make sure you state tilawat, your student ID, the G2 course as well, so that state G2 next to it as well, and do that not just for the audio file name, but also for the subject box of your email as well. And here we've got a hadith. So here's the Arabic. You're going to be reading out the Arabic and the English translation plus the commentary as well. So if you could have a read of that as well. Now this is only a part of the prophecy. The prophecy is pretty long. We will be choosing a couple of students for this, and the prophecy will be divided amongst those students. Okay, so if you would like to take part and be one of the students to read out the prophecy, then we would request you to record this following portion. Again, state the activity, your student ID, and make sure you say G2 as well. Okay. The following nazm, known, I think it's called Mahmood Ki Ameen, but it's here written in Urdu for you. So this is the nazm that's been chosen. If you could record the nazm as well, again stating the activity name, your student ID, and so on and so forth. And also if you wish to take part in the translation, we've got the translation right here for you. And lastly, we've got the speech. Okay, now we aren't very harsh on the topics or anything, but if there is, you can basically do your speech on any topic, as long as it is related to Hazrat Muslim Maud Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu's childhood. Okay, so try to choose the topic that is related to Hazrat Muslim Maud Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu's childhood. Okay, so make sure you state the activity name, your name, student ID, and G2 as well. Not just for the recording file name, but also in the subject of the email. Okay, so remember everybody to submit in your recordings before the 16th of February, I believe it was. Yes, 16th of February. Okay. All right, so these were quite a few announcements that we had to make, but we have got them out the way now. So I believe we are now ready to open up our breakout rooms, and I would like to confirm that with our breakout room coordinator. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam rahmatullah. Yes, the breakout rooms are ready, and I'm just going to open them now. So if I can request all the students to please join. Do make sure that you've registered your attendance the link to the attendance form was shared in the chat. So please make sure that you register your attendance before you join your breakout room. Jazakumullah.
All right, welcome back to the main session, everybody. I am just now going to get the right PDF file out. Here we are. Just to confirm with our breakout room coordinator, is everyone back in the main session?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, everyone is back.
Wa alaikum salam. Perfect. Jazakumullah. Okay, everybody. So today we had a lot of announcements. Today we also had our breakout room session. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that session for today. Make sure to do the half-term homework, which was thoroughly explained by our G2 leader. Also make sure to submit in your recordings. And you can access those PDF files, the recordings for the G2 Jalsa, by the way, which will be taking place on the 24th. If you cannot access that PDF file from the Google Drive, you can rewatch the class on YouTube and try to access it from there. But do also email us so we can try trouble solve something for you there. Okay. All right. So as always, we're going to conclude our class with a closing prayer. Since we don't have much time left, I would have to recite the closing prayer for you. So if you all could follow along at home. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم واجعله لي إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. And the English translation for that is, O Allah, have mercy on me through the Quran, the Great, and make it for me the leader, the light, the guidance, and the mercy. Okay, so that was it for today's class, everybody. Hopefully you have a restful half-term break, but make sure to do your homework as well. And as always, we will see you all in our upcoming classes, which will start from the 20th of February, inshallah. Until then, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.